All right, welcome. We're going to talk about the versions file today, my favorite file. This is where you get to keep all of your versions of your songs. In other words, if you have multiple versions of one song called I Love You, but there's 20 versions of it, you'll keep each version as a new record in this file. So this is a cool file where you can attach all of your audio files, your video files, etc., and keep track of all the different versions of your catalog material. Notice that we're currently in the catalog file, and so what we're going to do is we're going to go and click the versions button here and go over there. So you'll notice it's bright blue. This blue denotes the versions file, so you always know where you are. If you see a blue header, it'll tell you. It'll also say versions in the top area. So this is the long list. So what we're going to do is click on the first record here. It takes us to catalog 001. So to get back to that, we can click the long list button. Notice they're all the same catalog number in this one. So there's 5 different versions of My Heart Belongs to You. And that's our sample data. So there's different artists that record it. But we'll pick Bill Joseph here as the first one. This file lets you keep track of assets. For example, you can keep videos or MP3s. This is one of our videos that we market for relaxation and nature. And it just gives you an idea. So it's playing the audio. And that'll be in your sample files. I believe it'll be in there. It's in your digital assets folder. But for sake of time, I will stop that now. But this just gives you an idea. You could bring an HD video into FileMaker, into Songtracker. You can also bring songs as an MP3. And I'll click through some of the records here. I'm going to click Show All Records up here so I can go and look at all the records in this file. So I know that this one, Lovin' You Again, has a song attached. So I'll click on Assets, and this is what an MP3 will look like. So you all know about that. So anyway, so in order to add a file, you just click this button right here, Insert Audio or Video File, and you'd click Audio, and that would take you over here, and you click on the file that you want to assign it. Okay, so that's how that works. It's very easy to assign your music and your video files. You can also keep track of graphics in here if you want, photos or whatever it might be that you want to keep track of. So I'm going to go back to the long list button again up in the palette, and there's all the sample data in this file. So we'll go back to My Heart Belongs to You, the first version. Now notice this shows the version number. You can add more if you need it. It's got 50 versions of each song. This would be entered automatically if you do it from the catalog file. In other words, if you're over here in My Heart Belongs to You, you can always go add a new one just by clicking in here and putting the next number, and it will automatically add and connect that number. Watch when we do that. Let's say it's number 8, version 8, and then we type in John Doe. Press your tab key and put Doe. My heart belongs to you. Now you can put it any way you want. I recommend it's something like this so you can discern which version you're looking at when you're in the file. Now, what this is a portal right here. You're in the catalog file. You've entered it in the portal, the new version. Now, all the rest of the data can be entered over in the versions file. This is just to get you started. Let's say it's a demo, production number, mix master, reference number. That's really up to you what you want. You don't have to fill that in. What stage you're in, planning. Let's say it's requested. And then when you're ready, just to add that, to go ahead and do that, you can also click this button here. It does the same thing. It adds a new version into the file. When you click this button, it'll add a new line. So now we've entered this. Now watch, when I click go, it takes me over and it says here's a blank record which has the basic information is started. So here in the top you have your version name, which you've already entered. You tab. The version number is right here. It says current version number. This is your company number that manages this song in case you have multiple companies. That'll automatically default to 1 unless you change it. And it brings in the catalog number also. So the relationship of the versions joins the current version number with the catalog number to create a unique number that allows you to keep track of each version. And that's how the system uses it. This code doesn't do much. This is just for your use. If you want to code something, you have an extra code there. Most people don't use it, but we put it there because a couple people needed it. Okay, it automatically puts in an entry ID here, so you don't have to worry about that. Let's see, project type. It's a demo. We already entered that. This is just if you have a production number, or you can enter a client that's that it's for. Maybe it's a specific version for a client. And if so, you just click on that. It assigns it. Name of the session, you can call it. We'll just call it Doe Vocal Session. Digital audio file name. Once you have a mix, you can name that file. Etc. Just so you'll be able to look it up on your hard drive later by just copying it. Then you can do a search for it. There's all kinds of, now this is for recording information. It brings in the entry date. These are dates here. Date in, that you started it. The date out. This is mainly for like recording. The date you started recording. The release deadline, when it needs to be done by to be released. Time code would be, film time code. It could be tape points if you're using old analog. You could put the SMPTE code, any kind of time code that you use. The bit rate, 24-bit, 95-bit, 96-bit, etc. The software version that's recorded, like Pro Tools or Logic. You can also add your own if you want. Just click Edit and customize this according to what software you use and what version number it is. For example, you could put this and put Logic Pro 10, version 10. Now, digital delivery is how you're going to deliver the product on stereo, like a stereo MP3 file. The time of this full version, let's say it's 4 minutes and 2 seconds. Mix file type, let's say it's MP3. Sample rate you can keep track of. Your master files. It lets you track quite a bit of information. Now these codes over here are important. And I'll go into that a little bit. Your ISRC number is your digital number that represents this recording. Now we've put a bogus number in here, and I'll show you how we did that. And it also matches this number. The ISWC number is the number of the work. That should be a unique code. Normally that's given out by your performance company like ASCAP, BMI, whoever takes care of your performance royalties. They'll issue you a number when you register that song, and then you could put it over in your catalog file. And whenever you make a version of that work, it will it'll look up that code from the catalog file and bring it in to this field right here. Now, there wasn't one, so it didn't look up anything. The MFIT UPC code is one that is being required by iTunes now as a UPC code. So if you have your own unique UPC codes, you'd want to put that in, one for each song. Now, we just used a bogus number here, and I'll show you how to set that. The AOP code is it's a new code. It stands for Audio Online Publication Code. And Universal Music is beginning to require this, and some other publishers. So we've included this. It's optional if you want to use it, but if you find you need it for any certain reason, if you're doing a publication of a song, etc., you can get a number for that and put that in there. It just lets you track that number. Now I'm going to show you how to set this number. Your ISRC number is really important. It's required by iTunes and all digital sellers, it says here. Each separate recording is going to get a separate unique code. So you can add this manually, or if you buy a set of 100,000 codes, I don't know, for $45, you do that online. You can check into ISRC number, and you can buy a specific prefix. These will become your own, and then these last digits will be incremented by 1 each time that you create a new version of anything. So if you're doing a number of songs, you're going to need this number, so you'll file for that online. Now, to set that up, you can either do it manually or do it inside. I'm going up to the File menu, go Manage Database. This is a rare instance when you may want to set this up. Now, this may look confusing to you. Let's just put this under Field Name. That'll just set the it'll alphabetize them. So we're looking for our ISRC number, and there it is. ISRC number is, I just click once on it. Now, these are all the fields in this database. Normally you wouldn't go in here because you can mess things up, but I'm going to show you how to do this one. You find the ISRC number and you double click it. It brings up a dialog box that's checked with serial number. If you don't want that to auto increment, you can uncheck that button and it won't auto enter the data. You could do it manually. But if you want it to increment, like I like to do it that way, where I put my number in here and it auto increments by 1 each time. So any kind of file that I create, any kind of version of a song or a photo or video or anything I want to track, it will give it an ISRC number, which is very helpful. So I can have it increment by 1. It's already set to 1. So you would get your number prefix and then the last 5 numbers, I believe it is, or 6. They'll explain that. But you put your number in and you put 00001 in there as your first one, and then as you start creating new records, it'll add 1 to it with each new record you create. Now, if you ever mess things up, you'll have to come back in here and reset this number. But you do have this training tutorial that shows you how to do it. So once you've got your number in here correctly, this will be the next record that you're going to add. Make sure this is checked and it's incremented by 1 on creation. It will create this number. And you see it's going to go to 2 next because we just created 1. So it's going to 2. So let's click OK. And then that's done. Now the other number, I'm going to go to creation order, change that, and slide all the way to the bottom. And these are some new fields that we've just added to the latest version. And this was the MFIT code, which is a UPC code. So if you have a UPC code, you could double click that to set it. That'll be checked. Again, you could uncheck that if you don't want it auto entered, and put your UPC code in there and start it with the number that you wish to start. And what I like to do is keep it the same as my ISRC number. That way I can always recognize that. I'll know it's the same number, at least the last digits, But you could set that up with your you'll buy if you decide to buy this, you can. This gives you barcodes. If you don't have enough material that you're doing that, you could ignore that. Or you could, if you're using CD Baby and things like that, they will give you a UPC code with the product, so you could use that code. But that's really up to you. But if you want to do that, just set that up like this box, and then once it's set with your next number, click OK. Now, when you're done, get out of here. So click OK. This blue box here, click that. Now you're out of there, you're safe. That was a customization of the software. If you upgrade to new versions of the version file in the future, if we make some changes or additions, then you'd want to go back in and reset that number again in order for these numbers to increment properly. So you notice that these last 5 digits are the same, which is helpful. That's really up to you. These others can be added manually. Again, this one here, the ISWC, is your song code. It represents your copyrighted work. That will look up from the catalog file automatically. Okay, I hope that's helpful. Now this first screen is called, well, I'll show you some of the buttons at the top here. So we've got our general information at the top, which stays pretty steady throughout. And then we can click on various buttons. This is a tracking sheet, library information, song type for the style that you did the recording in, assets we saw. Assets allows you to create and attach your music. There's a video, for example, which we showed you earlier. All right. Now, metadata is a screen with many, many fields on it. Keeps track of all the metadata that you have for this version. That way you can copy paste it into any programs where you need to merge it with your audio files. It works with SoundMiner. But it's very helpful keeping track of all this metadata. Your description, your track title explains these. Just roll your mouse over the field and it'll explain what it is. This area here you can click on. This is for adding your artwork. If you click on that, it'll take you to a bigger screen of that. Insert your cover artwork. You go and find the artwork file that you want to include, and it tells you recommended artwork size is 512 pixels by 512 pixels. So you create that in Photoshop or wherever you want to create that, and then you can assign that and keep a copy in this file. Has a checklist, so you can keep track of every version of every song. So this is unique. You just click the ones that you want. You can also keep track of information you've done based on the song. Inventory. Now, this is your equipment inventory. This comes from the setup file based on this pop-up menu. So you can look at it by company. It just allows you to view it in here. If you want to enter this information should be entered over in the setup file. So see your tutorial on setup, because that's where we keep the inventory based by company for tax records. and serial numbers and insurance, etc. Collect money. This is where you can track and add money for your ASCAP or BMI. Your performance collections are entered here, and you can do deposits. I will come to that later in a separate training tutorial. I'm just showing you the basics of this file. It has quite a number of features in here. Awards and charts. So you can click in here and add charts. You can date it. You can name the award, what kind of category, film award, Hot 100 airplay, Nielsen SoundScan, number of weeks on a chart, any notes you want to make, the current status, and this will be a last modified date. You can even assign a photo here of the actual award, which is helpful. So over the years, you'll have a record of that. All right, so we've done inventory, collect money, checklist, assets, library, the tracks, and the studio. This was the studio, and I will go over this in a separate tutorial. There's your lyric sheet. I just clicked on the lyric sheet. This information will look up from the setup file, or I should say this will look up from your catalog file. If you've entered it on the song, if you've entered your lyric over there on the song, then it will look up that data each time you make a new version of the song. Now say it's a female version or a male version and the lyric changes slightly. You can just go in and select it and make modifications in this copy, and it will not affect your original catalog copy. That way you could have unique lyrics of different versions of the song, which is quite helpful. You can type in your writer credits if they don't look up from the catalog file. Be sure to write them in the catalog file, and then this information will come over. And we'll go through these in individual tutorials so that you can get a better idea. But that's how the versions file works in general. This is where you store all your information and data about each separate version of a song called like My Heart Belongs to You. All right, hope that's helpful.